Hey, welcome to the commercial crash course, this commercial case study on how I landed my first $1 million commercial real estate deal using none of my own money. Major game changer for me. It was a major aha moment for me because I've been in real estate for 17 years. And the first 11 years of my career was in buying small multifamily properties. Every property gave me a little bit of an incremental increase in cash flow, allowing me to get closer and closer in baby steps towards my ultimate financial goal, which was financial freedom. It was one deal that ended up changing everything. This commercial deal I'm going to talk about today. But this one deal alone replaced my wife's income and added $500,000 to our net worth. So $60,000 a year in tax-free income and about $500,000 to our net worth. So why do I say it replaced my wife's income? Because the first 11 years, I was banging my head against a wall, feeling I was running on a hamster wheel, buying small multifamily properties. I was able to become financially free by the time I was 33 years old. But, it took a long time. It took a lot of work. So the advantage of commercial, and this is a why commercial, is because you can get much closer to your financial goals much quicker with a lot less units of deals in the process. Right now, at this point in time in my career, I only do one commercial deal a year, right? In the past, I did like 10 to 12 a year, okay? Closing on a property a month. That is a lot of work. There's a lot of wheels spinning at the same time. Anyways, my name is Matt Druin. I'm a full-time real estate investor. I started this journey back in 2006, and I made the jump into the commercial space. I always knew that I wanted to do larger deals right after I bought my first 4-family when I was a little baby real estate investor in 2006. But I had this limiting belief. This limiting belief was that I had to be big to go big. I had to have a certain amount of doors in order for the universe to give me permission to play with the big boys and the big girls, right? This is a lie, okay? This is something, but it's something that we think in terms of incrementally, right? When we play Monopoly, it is first we have to make a monopoly on a street, like Broadway and whatever the other one is, right? And then we can build houses, and then we can knock those houses down and we can build hotels, right? The journey from residential to commercial, and what I mean by commercial is 5 units plus multifamily or anything that's like commercial office, retail, industrial, mixed use. That journey, that transition takes just as much time as if you do it now than if you wait 5-10 years to do it. The journey is not going to become easier by the more time that passes. So why not start right now? This is why you're here, is I'm going to break down into detail as to how I landed that first deal, how I raised the capital, how I ran the numbers, how I found the deal, and hopefully give you some inspiration and education to do it yourself, okay? Along with some actionable types of things you can do right now, today, to get moving in that journey, all right? So first things, a couple of, house cleaning things here. If your appetite is whet by this video, then make sure to subscribe to my podcast, the Go Big Live Real Estate Investors Podcast. It's on all platforms. I interview the mega titans in real estate, multifamily, commercial every week. Each of those podcasts is like a masterclass in how that investor did their first larger deal. And we're talking about people that are like Matt Faircloth, Reed Goosens, Gino Barbaro, Stephen Libman, Brian Burke, Chris Seveny, Ashley Kerr has been a recent guest of my podcast. I have Tyler Cauble coming up, absolute beast in commercial real estate. And this is a masterclass in excruciating detail on how they did their first deal, right? It's not conceptual type stuff. We get into the nitty gritty, actionable type of stuff that you can actually employ as tactical stuff in your overall strategy, okay? Secondly, if you found value out of this video and you want to learn more about how to find, fund, and analyze commercial real estate deals, but you want to have a live Q&A component to it, I'm having a another case study, another building I bought, which is a 28 unit mixed use building that I call it my kids' college education and educations property, and also our vacation property. This property, I bought it back in 2019. Now full circle, it cash flows $70,000 a year, $70,000 a year for one deal. Didn't have any of my own money into it. At about $500,000, $500,000 to $600,000 to our net worth. And I'm going to go into a similar type of case study on that one, but also have a live Q&A. So that I will need your email address from. So definitely register in the link below. And then lastly, if you are interested in using or how to use the spreadsheet that I'm using as a tool in today's training, definitely, I have a link for that. It's $17. You get the spreadsheet as well as the training, which the training is the most important part there on it. And spreadsheet is wonderful in terms of doing before tax cash flow, pro formas, like all this stuff and tools. I send it directly to my bankers and investors, and it has just been really made my life a lot easier. So that being said, this is kind of how we're going to stage it today is why commercial, my story. All right. And then we're going to talk about what that deal did for myself and my family and my experience through my career, my strategy, high level, in terms of my commercial strategy that you can adopt as your own, how I found the opportunity, how I made heads or tails of the opportunity, and how I analyzed the deal, how I funded the opportunity with raising capital specifically, and my key takeaways and stuff that you can do to take action today. So we are going to get started. Okay, so why commercial? All right, I asked myself the same thing. I can achieve the same goals buying smaller multifamily properties or single families or whatever your strategy is right now if I just build it at two different order of magnitude, right? This is what I thought myself, right? I got up to 76 doors of small multifamily by the time I was 33 years old, and I was financially free, right? The painful thing about this and the painful part of reinventing myself that had to take place was I knew right from the very beginning I wanted to do larger deals, but like I said, I had that limiting belief, right? Well, now I had all the freedom, but my number one life partner, my wife, who was a high school math teacher, didn't have that same freedom, right? And I wanted to go backpacking through Europe for 2 months, go to Italy, go to Spain, and all that stuff. And she wasn't gonna be able to do that with me, with being stuck in a high school math classroom. Okay. So that was a very, very painful moment for me where I was like, oh my God, do I have to start this journey all over again and bang my head against a wall, running a hamster wheel, trying to buy a bunch of properties that paid me chump change and take me another 10 years, being very busy in the process. So commercial is way more scalable at getting to your goals than smaller multifamily, single family. Okay. The reason being is because commercial is you're not hamstrung by sales comparables. Most people are familiar with, I buy a 3-family property and I, improve it. I bring it up to the level of sales comparables, and then I can increase the value of that property. Right. And you're hamstrung by what your neighbor's properties sell for. All right. This kind of takes the control out of what makes real estate attractive, right? There's a lot of variables you can control. It's not like you're investing in Tesla stock and the CEO shows up on the Joe Rogan's podcast smoking a blunt, right? What does that do to the stock price? That's the reason why a lot of real estate investors get into it. So that's a lack of control that you have in terms of what your neighbor's property sold for down the street, in terms of how it affects your net worth and how much value you can push in a property to be able to refinance it, right? Commercial property is like owning a business, like buying a business. The more income that property generates, the more valuable it gets. Every dollar of net operating income is actually, explosive to the underlying asset value. So this is why I've been able to buy properties for $500,000 and push them to $2 million in valuation. How I've been able to buy, $175,000 smaller commercial property, actually a mid-rise property, and push it to $600,000 in valuation. How I've been able to buy a $1.5 million deal and push it to $3.25 million in valuation in 18 months is because of this key feature. So, And the only bottleneck is you being able to find opportunities and being able to raise the capital for those opportunities. All right. So it is a lot more scalable and also can be done while you're working a full-time job. I could not, I was a realtor, so I had some flexibility, but buying a property a month like I was doing is not sustainable for somebody who works a full-time W-2, but it was essential in my journey to earn my financial freedom. But I could have done it with one deal if I would have focused on commercial earlier on. That's a very, very key component. They're also easier to do. Bigger deals are easy to do. Banks actually want to compete for your money, right? When I was in residential, I was the one having to go out there and grovel to bankers to fund my deals because they're small potatoes. When you're doing larger deals with commercial lending departments at community banks, they actually want to compete for your business, right? And these deals are easier to close too. This first deal I'm talking about today, it was substantially less work than the 2-family I bought like 6 months prior to this property. Okay. And that was a $200,000 deal versus $1 million deal. Right. So that's why commercial, right? Second thing is my strategy high level is essentially the BRRRR strategy for commercial properties. So I buy undervalued commercial properties, right? I rehab them or I'll increase their value. I find hidden opportunities in commercial assets such as lower than market rents, higher expenses than what's normal, right? I'm really, really good at finding opportunities where there might be savings on expenses and also where money is being left on the table on top line rents, right? And when you can increase the net operating income, then you can be able to refinance that property pretty quickly. You don't have to wait on organic appreciation of your neighbor's properties in order to do that. All you have to do is you can force appreciation by improving the business, right? Because it is a business, and that's what I like about it. And then I repeat, right? And typically what I do is I'll take the capital I've raised from investors and then recycle that capital over and over again while I go through refinances. And the magical thing is when you're raising money from private investors is that, somebody may give you a maximum of $50,000 to put into your first deal. Fast forward your next deal, they might be willing to do 100,000 or 150,000. I had one investor back about 4 years ago. I was doing a $400,000 raise that maximum would give me $50,000. I knew this guy was worth $20 to $30 million liquid. All right. And max would give me $50,000. Okay. Fast forward after I paid him back and was successful and he liked working with me, he wrote me a check for $1.5 million last year to do a deal where I was able to take that $1.5 million and turn it into $3.25 million. So these types of things, you can recycle that capital and scale, so you can do $1 million deals, then 2 million, then 4 million, and then up and up and up and go exponential as you grow your network of investors and then grow the relationship with the existing investors that you do have, right? So anyways, we're going to go into, so that's my strategy, right? So we're going to go into how I found this opportunity. So I'm going to share my screen with you. I put together a little presentation. So we're going to go and look at the property. All right. So how this property came to me was through a commercial real estate broker. All right. You want to talk about motivated sellers in commercial properties. I was under the impression that I could market to them just like it did residential properties. I was a direct mail junkie. So every time I wanted a deal, I sent out 2,000 mailers of postcards and white letters and yellow letters and all that stuff, right? Does not work with commercial, all right? That's not how a lot of commercial transactions are made. And believe me, I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in direct mail trying to find commercial opportunities that went up in smoke, all right? So motivated sellers or motivated owners of commercial properties contact commercial real estate brokers typically, right? And so this deal came to me off market through a commercial real estate broker, right? Commercial real estate brokers work a little bit differently than residential. When commercial brokers get a listing agreement signed for an opportunity, they don't put it directly into the MLS or directly into LoopNet or Crexi or whatever. They'll first contact people that they have in their sphere of influence. They say, hey, I know you're looking for a property like this, blah, 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 blah. I'm bringing on the market in a couple weeks from now. Was wondering if you might want to take a crack at it and do a private sale, so on and so forth. So this is how majority of transactions happen. They happen off market through commercial brokers. So this was a broker I had a relationship with. The teachable moments here, right? First lesson is, one, he knew me, right? Two, I kept in contact with him, right? So we had a relationship, kept in contact with him. Wasn't expecting anything out of it. It was just a friend, it was just a friendly contact, right? And then number three, they know what you invest in and what you look for and kind of what makes you tick, with a high degree of specificity in terms of types of properties you like to buy and what you're looking for. So this commercial real estate broker, I had worked with him. Actually, I was a colleague of his at a large scale property management company when I was in development and management for back several years ago. And so we worked with each other on a pretty consistent basis. We had a good rapport with each other. He liked me, I liked him. And I always talked about real estate with him, right? I'm obsessed. So I had talked to him about, properties I was buying and what neighborhoods, that sort of thing. And he knew that I owned properties in this neighborhood where this property was. It's called the Park Avenue neighborhood of the city of Rochester, which is a highly desirable neighborhood. And he knew that most of my portfolio was right there. So keeping top of mind, and then also having a high degree of specificity in terms of what you're looking for by like location, property type, that sort of thing is very, very important. That's the sort of thing like the reticular activation system, right? When you go buy a black Honda Accord, all of a sudden you start seeing black Honda Accords all over the place because your mind wants to categorize and think and latch on to things that are specific, not vague. Okay. So when you communicate with real estate brokers, make sure that you can, have a bullet list of what you look for, the types of properties, even, give them addresses, examples of addresses of like, yeah, I'd really like to own this deal. Give them, if the deals you own right now match what you're trying to buy, tell them, hey, this is what I own. This is why I liked these deals. Okay. So that's how I found the opportunity, how it was brought to me was through that relationship. Okay. So now he called me up. He said, Matt, I got a deal for you. I'm listing in a couple of weeks. Thought of you, and would you like to get a crack at it before it goes public on the market and that sort of thing? So of course I said, let me do a drive-by. Let me go through the common areas because this is a public building. As you can see right here, this is the lobby right down here. And so I was like, this is the deal. This is the deal that's my ticket to getting into commercial. All right. So I asked him how much it was. He said $1 million. Okay. I didn't know if $1 million made sense or not. Okay. But I don't really care about the price. What I care about is it in a good location? Does the property have upside in terms of rents or normalizing expenses or whatever it is? And then, price is kind of irrelevant to me. All right. It's really what is the actual underlying opportunity and what's its upside. So that being said, so I'm going to talk to you about how I kind of made heads or tails of this property. This was of this opportunity. This was before I even, announced it to any of my investment partners. Here's some example pictures of what the property looks like. So one of the things you're going to ask for when you're engaging with a commercial real estate broker is the offering memorandum, the rent roll, and the financials. Okay. I really don't care about pro forma, because sometimes they'll include the pro forma, and pro forma is just fancy words, Greek words for projected financials. Okay. The only thing a pro forma is going to be useful for is your pro forma when you present this opportunity to your banks and to your potential investment partners. All right. So rent roll is very important. It's one of my most important things there because top line revenue is one of the biggest determining factors of how much upside you can put on a property, right? So this is what a rent roll looks like. You're going to have, and I have the tenants' names and suite numbers, that sort of thing to protect the innocent on this deal. But one of the things is that I liked about this deal is you could see back too is that, one, it was in a great location. Two, it had a ton of parking. We're in a very, very automotive dependent city in Rochester. We don't have mass public transit and that sort of thing. So that's very important. It's one of the top questions I get from not investors, but tenants, commercial and residential. Number one question I get is there parking? Okay. This had plenty of parking. Three, this was smaller office. If you look at, this 15 tenants here, you got, they're not very big. Some of them are 200, 500 square feet. The biggest one is 3,100 square feet. The other thing I liked about this deal too, is because smaller vacancies or potential vacancies are very, very easy to lease up, typically. Okay. These are a lot of small businesses like therapists and insurance companies, and there's an accountant that's in this building. There's a little small salon that's in this building as well. So I liked that about that. And then also the property was very easy to break up. There wasn't a lot of like landlocked space that's in the building. I'll kind of go back in terms of a picture on here. As you can see, the center mezzanine area here on the left and the right hand side is where the offices are, and about 15 feet to the left or the right are the windows for the building. So it would be very easy to break this up into smaller office spaces if I had an office tenant that put in their notice and moved out and I wasn't able to lease that space. So that was very comforting for me. All right. So one of the things you're going to see on here is the lease expiration date. One of the things I also liked about this deal is that we didn't have all of the leases expiring in 1 year, right? Within the next 12 months. That would have been scary as hell to me at that point in time in 2017. But nevertheless, the other thing too that I liked about it is that, this property had 100% occupancy for 20 years, right? That's not necessarily a good thing, but what it tells me as a prospective investor is that it's 100% occupied for a long time. That means rents are significantly below market rents, all right? Which is an indication I can push rents pretty dramatically. And that's what I did on this deal, is I pushed rents up, quite a bit on it. That was part of my business plan, was to bring top line revenue up on the property and align with market rents. So that was part of my business plan with this deal. So this is what a rent roll looks like. All right. Very important. Typically, another thing that I'll ask for from the broker is the trailing 3 years of financials in the property. Okay, why 3 years is because it's easy to understand the potential performance of the property and what I can do in terms of, I can see what expenses trend at. All right, so this is what those financials looked like. And if I can see 3 years, I can see if there's been there was a spike 1 year, right? In 2 years, if insurance costs were significantly higher than the previous year, there's not much to go off of based upon 2 data points, right? It's easier when there's 3 data points and therefore 3 years in this process. That's another piece of documentation I ask for, if they have it, right? Of course. All right. So these are the 2016 financials. So this is kind of like stuff that I was collecting to put together these financials, right? So when I started, making heads or tails of this whole opportunity, I was also talking to potential lenders and bankers, and I had a relationship with a loan officer at a community bank. And I brought this deal to him. And that's the one thing that's important in terms of an actual item, is talk to commercial real estate lending departments at community banks today. You do not have to wait until you have an opportunity, right? So the importance of doing that is that so you can build a relationship with them. When you have a relationship, people are more apt to return your phone call. One, when you have an opportunity, and so they don't know you from Adam, it's much more difficult. And then 2, when they present your deal to to their loan committee, because that's how community banks work, is that loan officer has to approve, their credit analysts have to approve, and then their loan committee has to approve the loan. All right. So, and loan committee's job is to poke holes in your deal. All right. And it's a lot easier for you to get your commitment letter, your commitment of financing from a bank, if you have a loan officer that knows your story, knows your track record, has gotten belly to belly with you. So that's just a slick trick, is to go out there, meet 3 lenders at some community banks, right? Ask the community bank if they have a commercial lending department, who's the loan officer you should speak to start building that relationship. Okay. Some of the things you can ask that will help you in analyzing those deals with these 3 people you meet with is, based upon my area and where I'm looking to invest, where are you seeing cap rates trade? Okay. Document that, right? Cap rates is just a fancy word for income capitalization rate. And that's essentially the net operating income divided by a certain number. All right. I don't care about cap rates going into deals. What I care about is where cap rates trade and where they appraise. So what a bank appraiser is going to assign as value for each net operating income dollar. So I can know what my business plan is going to be to increase the value of that property and be able to refinance and take out my pay back my investors, right? Another thing you want to ask is when you request a term sheet, okay? You are going to, ask, hey, where are interest rates trading right now? If I were to close today, the frustrating thing about commercial financing is a lot of them won't lock at day one when you make your loan application, like residential mortgages. A lot of them will lock, sometimes 72 hours before closing. Okay. Some will lock at, commitment letter when you get the commitment letter. Okay. So you want to ask them like, okay, in today's dollars, where would the interest rate be? So this is important in terms of doing your underwriting and important in putting together the spreadsheets for your investors as well and doing your financial projections. Also, ask them based upon this opportunities like this. I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. What are you typically willing to lend on these opportunities? What's your relationship lending limit? Okay, some of these community banks are smaller, so they can actually, have a maximum relationship limit of, I have one bank, fantastic bank, but it's $1.5 million, right? I have one loan with them, right? So you want to understand this so you're not bringing a deal to a bank you think is going to have a home for your deal and they don't. How do you amortize your deals? What do you typically loan in terms of percentage LTV, loan to value? And then also, how long of a term are your typical loans? Sometimes they're 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. How long is the interest rate fixed for, right? Some will lock for 5 years. Some will lock for only 3. Some will lock for a total of 10 years, right? And then typically, how is the loan terms amortized as well, okay? And then also lastly, what is your minimum debt service coverage ratio, or DSCR, all right? A DSCR is basically a bank will require you to make money on the property, all right? And typical DSCR covenants on properties is usually between 1.2 or 1.25, right? If you don't know what DSCR is, just look on Investopedia how to calculate it. It's automatically calculated through the spreadsheet tool that I use. But something I want to know when I'm running the numbers is that just because this property might appraise, it may not meet debt service coverage ratio for my bank. So I may have to actually raise more capital in equity up front. Okay. So after you got these historical financials here, then you can start to plug them into your spreadsheet. Okay. So I'm going to skip around a little bit here. So this is what this looks like on the spreadsheet afterwards. All right. So putting this in this format is going to allow me to kind of see where things are trending in terms of utilities over the past few years, maintenance expenses, so on and so forth. And you look forward here is that I don't really make a lot of big assumptions on on rent increases, right? One of the things I did account for increase in bill backs for utilities when I was, negotiating new lease renewals for tenants, right? I'm not going to increase your rent that much, but I'm going to ask for, your fair share of your pro rata utilities bill back to you. Okay. So that's one thing that I calculated in there. So just things like this, putting in there, being conservative, right? I have two different spreadsheets that I use. I'll use this one, which is super conservative, which I'll use to present to my investors. And then another one I'll use for internal purposes that are going to be more my target type of things and what I think I can do with the property. But I don't want to make those promises to my investment partners when I'm doing this, right? For instance, I did not calculate any reduction in heat or electric in this property. However, during due diligence, I found that, during the winter, there was tenants running air conditioning at the property. Okay, insane, right? The reason why we're doing that is because there was one thermostat for the heat at the building, which was steam, and then there was several thermostats for tenants AC, central air. Okay, and the central air was set at 68 degrees, and the heat for the building was set at 70, right? So the thermostat would be calling for cooling, AC, and both things would be fighting against each other, and it was driving utility costs up. So we're able to actually knock down our utility costs by almost 50% on this property, okay? Other assumptions that I made as well is we were able to reduce maintenance expenses. This property management company had a part-time maintenance person just sitting there at the property for a certain number of hours a week. Completely unnecessary. This is not a huge, giant building. It was a 16,000 square foot building. Don't need a ton of, man hours there. It should be on demand, and also having, a person come through a couple times a week, just making sure common areas are looking spruced up and that sort of thing, right? So another assumption that I made as well is, there was a marketing thing here. The property management company that was having this was third-party management, was charging a flat marketing expense, which was basically a management fee. They just charged a certain amount to marketing. So I knew that wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to be something that's part of this deal. Other thing too is I knew that there was going to be a opportunity to reduce snow removal costs on the property, right? So that was another great savings as well. I got it quoted by a few different snow removal companies, and it was $5,000. I was able to add $5,000 to the net operating income, right? So one of the things is that when you're running your numbers here, you're going to look at the asking price of the property, and you're going to, ask your banker, let's say your banker is, hey, what are cap rates trading for? And if it's like, let's say 8% cap rate, then you're going to use this, pro forma NOI based upon these like sort of very, very conservative, stuff that you can save money without having to spend, spend a lot of money. And you're going to take that $94,000 or whatever that net operating income is and divide it by that capitalization rate, right? So that divided by 0.08, right? So that's going to come up with a $1.1 million valuation, okay? Don't get so stuck on, are you buying this at a great price based upon your, cap rates and that sort of thing. You want to see the whole picture here. One of the things I definitely do is, if it doesn't meet the cap rate, let's say this is $1 million property, $70,000 net operating income on this most recent current year, right? So at 8%, at an 8% cap rate, I'm going, that's 70,825 divided by 0.08 was $885,000, right? They were asking $1 million. They wouldn't take a penny less than $1 million. So what was it going to do? Pass it up. Don't write opportunities off just because if you doesn't fit this little box, right? If there's low cost ways that you can actually increase the value of the property, and also increase it rapidly after you buy it, then it still might be a good opportunity. So the question you want to ask yourself is, are rents drastically below market value, even with the units in their current condition, right? Without having to do anything? Are they $100 below market rents? Okay. You don't have to give the seller full credit for the $100, but maybe you can give them a little bit of a bonus on that in terms of the price. Second question, is there vacancy that is being carried unnecessarily, right? This property wasn't the case, but if there's been some vacancy that's just carried due to laziness, right? I bought apartment buildings where there was like 5 apartments that were move-in ready, and the way that the guy was marketing the apartments was he had a for lease sign or for rent sign out in front of the property. Nothing else, nothing on Craigslist, nothing on rent.com, nothing like that. People don't shop that way anymore, right? So is also there potential hidden value in monetizing underutilized space, like garage parking, storage, laundry, that type of thing? So the long story long, also, are there expenses that are abnormally high, like insurance, repairs and maintenance, repairs and maintenance that are band-aiding deferred maintenance issues, right? I can then, budget in some CapEx that I can spend in order to save on ongoing repairs and maintenance. Yeah, that'll affect my valuation in terms of what I can pay for the property, but I can increase the value of the property by decreasing that by decreasing that maintenance and maintenance repair line item on the property. Utility costs, right, on this property, are they being controlled or measured in a meaningful way? In this property, they were not, right? So that being said, the point of the matter is that, sometimes if you can figure out a way, a low cost, low risk way to boost net operating income that isn't going to cause you a lot of brain damage in the process, then, it may be worth it to do that, and pay maybe more than you really like to, based upon whatever your hard and fast, like, oh, I don't pay more than X amount. A good opportunity is a good opportunity, and sometimes you got to put a little more sweat equity into it to make it work. But this was definitely one of those deals, right? It would have been, if I would have offered $885,000 and just stuck at that, I would have lost on this opportunity and somebody else would have bought it, right? And I wouldn't have been able to replace my wife's income, right? So, so that being said, I want to go into, let me see here, I'm going to go back a little bit, right? So I was saying, hey, I had to raise $300,000 for this deal. I didn't have the cash, right? I was forced to raise capital for this deal, right? I went to my private money lenders that had put mortgages on properties I had bought in the past while I was growing my portfolio. Not hard money lenders, private money lenders. These are like people that are in your sphere of influence. And this is how I presented the opportunity to them, right? It was this, and then these attachments that you'll see in with my pro forma and before tax cash flow and all that stuff. Not fancy. Okay, you don't need some slick looking, slide deck that's put together by some graphic design professional from Fiverr or Upwork to get your friends and family and professional contacts, people that are in your personal sphere of influence, to buy into your deals. Right? It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to be cute about it. Typically, people that are in your this sphere. By the way, I didn't have to raise $350,000. I ended up having to raise $300,000 for it. So, but this is how I did this via email like this, sent individually to people that had participated in my deals to some extent. All right. And along with these attachments beyond here. All right. Doesn't need to be, I think that even when you have slick presentations and a webinar and all that stuff, it's just like your people that are in your sphere of influence, that are friends and family, professional contacts, they know you personally. They're not investing in your deal. They're investing in you. All right. So don't get cute about it. Don't overthink it. Get into email and then have attachments like this. Right. So I plugged in these pro formas I just sent over, we just reviewed together. Right. And my business plan on this property was to, implement the utility recapture, and knock snow plowing down, really, and then just increase rents slightly over the holding period. And how I calculated this is I proposed a 5-year term, paying them 7% annually, distributed monthly. Right. So if we look at, and this was a 5-year term, right? So at the end of 5 years, I took that $1.3 million you see here in terms of the terminal value at that point in time, and part of my analysis is I went in and I multiplied it by 0.75 or 75% loan to value. I want to be conservative because I was like, okay, when I do to refi it, then the bank might only allow me to do a max 75% loan to value. So let's take a look. I'm just doing on my calculator right here, actually. So, so I got about $1 million. All right. And these were based upon conservative numbers. Remember, I had 2 spreadsheets. I knew that I could reduce utilities. I knew I could, increase rents a lot more than what I projected on the pro forma, but I wanted to under promise and over deliver for my investors. And I was able to actually, push the value of this property from $1 million to $1.6 million over the course of 18 months. Okay. I was able to get them paid back in less than 3 years. So I was able to recycle that capital again. And I did so in subsequent deals going on, and they became larger and larger deals that added more to my net worth, more cash flow. So definitely, that's how I figured out this deal here. Is like, okay, this thing will be worth around 1.3, 1.4 in year 5. So I can, this is definitely something conservatively I can do, right? So that being said, oh yeah, and then what we do here is we are going to then subtract the loan balance at that point in time, right? So the numbers were not, remember being conservative, but they weren't like an absolute grand slam home run based upon my pro forma, right? Because just think about that. So times 0.75, I got a million bucks minus 705,668. So that was about $300,000 in value. Remember, I borrowed 300,000, so we're like right on the money there, right? I ended up, exceeding pro formas on this, getting them paid back sooner, and pushing the value of the property a few $100,000 more than I had projected. So this is a great tool here. It's included in the spreadsheet that I use, that I have that training on. If you want to take me up on that, just click the link below. It's $17. You get the spreadsheet as well as my training on how to use it as an effective tool in your real estate investing underwriting in your business. Okay. So let me see here. All right. So how it turned out. We were able to end up actually increasing top line revenue from about $198,000 a year to $219,000. Remember, I implemented some of those cost reduction measures on snow plowing, knocking that down. We were able to save some money on insurance as well, a couple grand a year. Able to bring maintenance costs down on the property. We're able to, all these little things add up, right? So we're able to bring net operating income from $70,000 to $131,000. So we're able to increase the value of the property from $1 million to $1.6 million. I ended up putting on a supplemental loan in about less than year 3. So we're able to get a second mortgage on the property that was behind the first mortgage with the current bank. This wasn't a second mortgage from a different bank. It was the same mortgage, right? I was able to avoid doing a prepayment penalty on it. And the advantage to me, I was able to keep the first position mortgage on the same amortization schedule. So I was able to do that debt pay down, equity build up a lot quicker by keeping that first mortgage still on. All right. And then also, fast forward to after I refinanced this property. Property has been cash flowing about $60,000 to $70,000 a year. Therefore, that's why it replaced my wife's income. Not so hard to replace a teacher's salary. So especially when the income is tax-free, right? So what did I learn in the process, and what can you take on today in getting started in commercial? Is start raising capital now. All right. You do not have to wait until you have a deal. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right here so you can see the full size of my face. So start raising capital now, right? There's this big, huge misconception with investors that the deal comes first, then the money will come. The money will just automatically come. You won't have to worry about capital raising ever again, right? If you just find good deals. Not the case, right? Listen to my podcast. Like 99.9% of the people that are on my podcast all argue that the money comes first. Remember, you don't go to a grocery store without money and saying, okay, I'm going to find the groceries first and then I'm going to get the money, right? No, you have the money first and you go grocery shopping, right? So that starts now, meaning you got to start communicating to people of what you're doing, right? And where you want to go, right? And the types of deals that you're going to be focused on, right? What those deals look like, and communicating to them, if you have been working at Cisco Systems for 12 years and you have this side hustle called real estate that nobody even knows about, you got to change that. You got to start educating people about what you're doing, and everybody loves to talk about real estate. So not doing it just one-on-one, talk to people one-on-one about what you're doing. Oh yeah, this past weekend I worked on my real estate business. Oh, Jason, what's that about? What are you doing? Right? People love to talk about that. Remember HGTV and all this stuff, right? 99% of people out there want to be real estate investors, just never do because of the proverbial tenants, trash, toilets, and most importantly, time. All right. So this can start to change that identity with your sphere of influence as you being a real estate investor that has access to opportunities they can participate in. Right. So have these conversations, start booking your calendar, start filling your calendar up with people that are in your sphere of influence. Family and friends are the lowest hanging fruit to start. So it starts there. Friends, family, and professional contacts. And a lot of people get very, very scared about mixing business with family, right? If you can't mix family and business, then who can you do business with, right? Secondly, privilege, right? Privilege is just another word for generational wealth. Your parents, their grandparents, and all the, up the line of the family tree made tremendous sacrifices to help put you where you are right now, right? So use your privilege, okay? Your privilege is your friends and family, right? So, and you can present great opportunities for them to participate in and help build not only your wealth, but your familial family wealth in the process, okay? The reason why friends, family, and close professional contacts is that these people already know you. You're never going to be able to raise capital from people that don't know you, all right? Don't think that you're going to be able to go on to crowdfunding platforms and, put your deal up there and you're automatically going to have the capital. Those people are professional institutional sponsors that, already have a huge track record. They have a ton of deals they brought full cycle. They have, all this experience, all these relationships, and also notoriety in the industry. And you don't have that, right? So crowdfunding is not going to be for you. It's going to have to come from people you know. So educate people that you know on what you're doing, and then expanding that sphere over time as well. Because capital raising is never going to be something you can just stop. Number two, build relationships with those bankers. That starts now, right? So call your community banks and credit unions on, find out, ask if they have commercial lending department, right? And then talk to and set up meetings with those loan officers, right? So you can tell your story and what you're looking for, and also ask those questions about what's the interest rates you're quoting out there? What are cap rates trading around? And start to get that market data out there. Because remember, real estate's local, and these loan officers, they see deals all the time. They see appraisals all the time, all that stuff. Third, build relationships with commercial real estate brokers now. All right. So I don't know any real estate brokers. Okay. Well, you can go on LoopNet, go on Crexy, start looking for properties that maybe even loosely match your criteria of what you're looking for, and contact that commercial real estate broker, right? Get information about the property, ask them what the story is on the property, right? And walk the property, right? Underwrite the property, and then clearly communicate back to the broker, hey, I underwrote this deal. It doesn't make sense for us at this point in time, and here's why, right? Or if it's a property you really like, but there's just pricing isn't as line, tell them exactly, what you need to buy the property for, or in terms of a range. And so they can, so they know that you know your stuff, okay? Because a lot of commercial real estate brokers get their time wasted by a lot of investors that are residential, that are just dreamers, right? So start building those relationships now, right? On acquisition financing, here's just a little bit of like slick tricks and stuff like that. Is it's best to work with a credit union, especially if you're going to do a commercial BRRR property, right? If you can do a commercial BRRRR, because you're going to have to, refinance that property to execute the business plan after you've increased the value. So it gives you the maximum amount of exit strategies in terms of exit tactics. If you need to leave that credit union altogether and bring it to a new bank, then you don't get charged a prepayment penalty, right? Also, when you have a loan with a current bank, they usually have a reporting requirement. This is what kind of dinged me on this property at 16 North Goodman, this property we just talked about, is I had a reporting requirement with the bank that gave me the acquisition financing, right? And I need to send my tax returns along with Schedule E's and all that stuff to the bank. Well, that property appraised for 1.6 million, but they didn't give me a full up 80% loan to value on that 1.6 million, because the expenses that I was reporting in my Schedule E that should have been actually capital improvements, but I expensed them instead for tax purposes, ended up coming back to bite me. So I was able to get enough loan to take my investors out, but I was, if I would have brought this to a different bank, I probably would have gotten an additional $180,000 in cash out proceeds of this property. Okay, so this would have been not a $300,000 check at closing for a refi, but almost a $500,000 check at closing, right? I could have paid off my house. I could have done a lot of stuff with that money. I could have used it to reinvest it back in my business. So definitely something where, I had a steep prepayment penalty on this property. It was, I think at that point in time was 3 to 4% prepayment penalty to bring it to a different bank outside this community bank on an $800,000 loan. That's a lot of money, right? So I decided to keep it in the same bank, but just something in terms of a slick trick going forward. Also, on your refinances, if the numbers are going to be tight, remember that these numbers are a little bit tight, like even on the pro forma, that you part of commercial financing is that you get a blind appraisal bids. You get to pick the appraisal you get on the property, but it goes like this. It's an email and it says bid number 1 through 6. All right, and they'll give you all these different prices on it. You won't know the actual company that's bidding, but pick the top 1 or 2 in terms of those appraisals. They may be 2 times as much as the other ones, but the expensive ones typically are national appraisal companies like Cushman Wakefield and CB Richard Ellis that give a regional cap rate. A regional cap rate applied to an actual region for your particular product class, which typically those cap rates are usually about a point less than what local appraisers will do, which is more in line with what's happening actually in the market, which will give you a bigger project value on the back end. So just a little slick trick there. And then lastly, if you're looking to swim upstream into larger commercial deals, definitely find your tribe at your local real estate meetups. You're only going to get so far networking with the fix and flippers, the wholesalers, the short-term rental guys, the midterm rental girls. You got to raise your thermostat and start hanging out with people that are doing the bigger deals, right? Even if you aren't doing those bigger deals, hanging around with them, that rubs off on you. And also opportunities can rub off on you, right? And also ups your IQ as well. So join a mastermind, right? That's one of the things, one of the biggest benefits to the students that are in my program. The Go Big Mastermind is a lifetime mastermind of people that have already been through my program, that have been successful, that get a lot of value out of, partnering with people that are in my program that are newer. All right. This is a team sport. So definitely make sure you do that. All right. So in conclusion, commercial is definitely the way to go. This is my manifesto for trying to convince you to go commercial. Follow-up is, if you're interested in live Q&A on how I did my next deal, the 28 unit deal that, pays about $70,000 a year in passive income and $500,000 in net worth and that sort of thing, that 28 unit mixed use apartment deal, sign up for my case study coming up there. I'm going to have live Q&A so we can engage one-on-one. So I'm not monologuing like this over the entire time. We can have a high degree of interactivity and make it as educational as possible. Completely free. I will need your email address though, so that I can, send you actually out the Zoom invite. And then number 2, if you, like this spreadsheet, and I'll share my screen with you right now in terms of this Excel spreadsheet that I use. Definitely hit the link down below. It's $17. It's like, I would make it free, but I'd have to send this to, thousands of people. So I just rather like limit the amount of people on it. I really don't care if you buy it or not, but it's been a huge tool for my business going forward. So, and there's tons of great functionality here. We got a, owner's goals here. You can start plugging in amortization, second loans, projected cap rates, whether they expand or contract, that sort of thing. You can put in your rental comp grids. This spreadsheet, I love a lot. This is calculates terminal value based upon the numbers that pulls from here. This spreadsheet, all right. And then we got after tax cash flows you can pull in there. So a lot of good stuff. If you could get some value out of that, I'll train you how to use the whole thing. So just click the link below and do that. Otherwise, subscribe to my podcast. If you're looking to go commercial, and I hope to see you around soon. Take care.